Welcome to a This Week in South Carolina special report. I'm Gavin Jackson here in Clinton, South Carolina on the campus of Presbyterian College in the upstate region that was hit hard by Tropical Storm Helene a week ago. That storm left more than 1.3 million South Carolinians in the dark, damaged 1,500 homes, and claimed more than 35 lives. Before we look into those recovery efforts, I spoke with South Carolina Emergency Information Network meteorologist Tim Miller about why this storm was so impactful.
We've seen some just devastating pictures of the flooding in South Carolina, North Carolina, and parts of Tennessee. But for our state, it has been tremendous, and as well as our friends in North Carolina. This is a loop that takes us into Thursday when the storm was off the coast of Florida, making landfall in Taylor County, Florida. This is again Thursday night. Then by Friday, all of this moisture shifts into Georgia and in Carolina, where it's still through Georgia. It was a mighty powerful storm. And then look at all this moisture. Now, bear in mind, we had lots of rain before Helene, and then Helene comes in and gives us all this moisture. As the moisture moves up the mountains, it acts like a sponge, and all of the moisture is basically like a rag wringing out of that particular storm cells that move on through. And that's what created tremendous amounts of rain, where we received over 20 inches of rain north of Asheville. And several inches of 20 inches of rain gives us literally trillions of gallons of water falling from the sky. So this is what caused major flooding for parts of the upstate and then certainly into parts of North Carolina. The problem is also the rain that falls towards the north goes through the watershed through South Carolina. So everywhere from the Broad River to the Congaree River to the Saluda to the Wateree all have to take in what falls from up north, then brings it on down towards the ocean. But notice the rainfall amounts. Notice 12 plus inches of rainfall in certain areas. But then we have places towards the east like Camden where there really wasn't a whole lot of rain. And Sumter, 2.8 inches of rain. But then you get into this little swath here through the central part of the Midlands, western part of the Midlands, then towards the upstate where the rainfall totals were certainly tremendous. Rainfall totals, let me show you exactly what we're looking at here. So from Clemson, we're anywhere from about 8 inches. Asheville itself, downtown 12 inches. The airport almost 12 inches. Columbia almost 6 inches at 5.5. But Charleston metro area 2.5 to 5.5. It all depended upon where you were located with rainfall totals. But again, this is a tremendous amount of rain to deal with in a short period of time. Now let's look at power outages. As of the last 16 hours, still much of the state dealing with some issues, especially the western part of the state and towards the upstate, with some counties still over at 75% dealing without power. This will continue to change, of course, as we move through time, as the power crews are working diligently to get the power back. So this has indeed been a record storm, and it's one that will go down in the history books.
I spent several days this week touring small and big towns in the upstate that were hit hard by Tropical Storm Helene, where folks are still in the dark as crews work to restore power across the area.
Here at 8:42 and 62 degrees, you're listening to continuing coverage of the rescue and recovery operations of Tropical Storm Helene. Somebody must have called in and asked for this because I think it's the right thing. Like
we have had so many phone calls of people going, I don't know what day it is. I'm trying to label stuff in my cabinet so I don't eat bad things. And I have no idea what today's date is.
Wednesday, October the 2nd. Yes. And you know what? Whoever you were that called in, please do not feel like you were alone because it still feels like Thursday of last week.
I don't know.
I'll be honest with you.
I've had to check my calendar at least 3 times already this morning just to make sure that I know what day it is.
It's wow.
It's wild to believe it's been 7 days, hasn't it?
Tomorrow will make 7 days.
7 days since we arrived at this radio station, ready to cover this thing, and we thought,
we really did.
It never happens to us. We'll be home by Saturday.
This is, I think, the biggest problem all of us are facing and trying to wrap our mind around is just what we're seeing, what is happening, and the things that we are experiencing. These are things that we never thought we would experience. We've seen it on the news. Mark, Tank, we have reported on this. We've had drives for food, for money, supplies, and to be on this end of it, all of it. It's a hard thing to wrap your mind around. So don't Don't feel bad that you feel bad. Don't feel bad that you're confused. Don't feel bad that you're angry, that
It's
you're
okay.
frustrated. Those are all normal feelings.
Justifiable.
Yeah, and it may be that you're way back up in some holler and you think that you have been forgotten about, that nobody cares. That is not the case.
We ain't seen nothing like this around here in a while.
And what have you been doing? What's it been like the past couple days?
Non-stop, no sleep, hardly any eating. Trying to find some gas to keep the wheels rolling, but we out here.
And what's it been like? I mean, are you cutting down trees on houses? What have you been seeing?
On houses, blocking driveways. Right now we're helping out Spartanburg School District 1. We was at the district office yesterday getting some out of the parking lot. Now we're cleaning this up. We was at Inman Elementary this morning off the playground, just doing our part.
And Gage, do you have power at home? What's your home life like right now?
No power, cold water, get home, working dark to dark, get home, eat, take a cold shower, get up, repeat.
We had transmission that was devastated through this storm. And understand, this is a Category 4. People talk about Hurricane Hugo. It also was a Category 4. So what we had to do is get the helicopters in the air. We couldn't do that on Friday because the wind speeds were going too much. So we actually had 2 days. We had Saturday, we had Sunday, and then today. 3 days. Hurricane Hugo took us 18 days to have restoration. That won't be the case here, but just give you a comparison, we've had more transmission lines out in the state with Helene than we did with Hugo, to give you the magnitude. So we have to patrol. Once we patrol, we put the saw on the bottom of the copter, it goes out there and it cuts and gets these trees off the transmission. Then once you restore, and that's why people say, I didn't see any crews in my neighborhood. That's because they got to work the transmission. Then we got to work the substations, those fenced-in areas in your neighborhood that reduce the voltage to get to your homes.
No, I'm just peeking at the underneath. It's whoa, she's cooking. She's getting there. My boyfriend is Venezuelan, so and my neighbor had this amazing grill, so we've been fine. We had soup, we had arepas, we did hamburgers. I'm trying to cook the last of my freezer right now, which is these freezer pizzas. I don't know how well that's going to go on the grill, but it's worth a try. It was pretty terrifying. You know, every time I came out, there were more trees on the ground. The wind was just whipping around, and we just sort of sheltered and watched the trees move and tried to guess which one was going to go next. Yeah, we had a couple houses on the block get hit, but mine's good. I lost a tree in the backyard. We had a lot of trees in the road. That was by far, the bigger priority.
We've been without power since Friday. It's really bad on this end. We can't charge our phones. We can't call the doctor. We can't get medication. We can't get food. No one has come to check on us. No one has come to see even if we needed help, and I think it's really bad. This is the first time that we've seen crews, and we are hopeful that the lights will be back on by this weekend or either in a couple of days, because we really don't know how much longer we'll be able to take this. We were just told that we might have some storms, but we were not prepared for anything like this. It was a little bit chaotic because we didn't know what was going on. We thought it was just a rainstorm coming through, and to see all the trees and stuff down is bad. And not only that, but last month we had a storm and the tree was on top of my house last month. So now this month again. So that's another issue.
Look, what are you doing? So we're hoping he'll be here tomorrow to start working on it. I don't know how long it'll take to get the tree off his house. And they got to come in with some machinery. Like I said, it happened around 5 o'clock Friday morning. High wind started blowing, knocked out the transformers. That was the first thing we noticed, is the transformer blew out because they had all the sparks and everything from it. Stepped out the door to try to see what was going on, because we heard that loud noise when the tree fell. Couldn't see anything. The rain was coming at it sideways. I mean, it was just like, right in front of your face. Once it let up a little bit, we tried to get out of the house again and just try to get away from here. That's why we drove to the Walmart parking lot. When it got daylight, we came back and seen the damage. The damage is pretty well tremendous. We got a tree lies in the house. We got to get it cut off top. We got damage to garage. Everything inside the garage is pretty well damaged. Hit an edge of the living room. So we having to live pretty well, basically in the second side of the house for now.
I think there was maybe some naivety, at least on my part, as to the extent of the damage. It certainly didn't take long to realize that this is probably the worst natural disaster we've ever faced in Greenwood. We had a tornado that came through here in 1944 and took out our hospital, Greenwood Hospital, and that was bad. But we're not trying. It's not a competition, but I think this is worse. It's truly remarkable that we only lost one life in Greenwood. I feel like Greenwood. I know there's other hard-hit communities, and we're praying for them, and especially Western North Carolina. But man, Greenwood seems to have been the epicenter in terms of property damage. It is unbelievable to me how much has been accomplished in the last 6 days in terms of clearing roadways. Every road now is passable. I think we have basically you can get wherever you need to go. There may be one or two roads where there's still a tree blocking the road, but those people have access out another way. I think just the sheer amount of property damage, the magnitude of the cleanup, I think for me it's daunting, just thinking about what needs to be done. But the cooperation that we've had from a county and a city and a state level, and all the nonprofits, the religious community, because you wake up and you go, how are we ever going to clean up? But you got to put your big boy pants on and get out there and get to work.
So when the storm hit on Thursday night, we had already begun prepping for the storm. We pulled in emergency cots at our shelter, went ahead and got some emergency meals, thinking like it was going to be very quick. And what we realized, obviously, on Friday morning was that the devastation was a lot bigger than what everyone originally thought. And so the Salvation Army had access to food almost immediately, and by lunchtime had already served the first 500 meals to families who either had very damaged homes, everyone was without power, and that number has only grown. By the end of today, we're looking at being right at 9,000 meals served to the community.
121
burgers.
120 now?
420 burgers.
Oh. No, I'm just joking. Okay.
420, we'll do that.
Okay.
Again, not thinking, we all thought we would wake up to a couple of tree branches and not entire trees on houses, and cars literally split in half, and power out from 95% of the city and almost 100% of the county. So that morning, the morning of the 27th, so the hurricane hit 3 a.m. By 7:30 a.m., we were serving breakfast. So the locations are growing. The further out we go, our teams will come back with 2 to 3 more areas that need help. We are hearing about places where CNAs have stayed or doctors have stayed. And just a second ago, found out that there's another place where nurses are kind of just stuck as is, and so trying to figure out how we can take food to them. So yeah, it's just been a constant where the need is continuously growing.
On Wednesday, President Joe Biden visited South Carolina on his way to the western portion of North Carolina, which was devastated by Tropical Storm Helene. We caught up with the president on the ground in South Carolina.
The president promised whatever we needed, he would provide. So did FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell, and we spoke to him about the struggles that we're having, about the energy, and we asked for the emergency declaration that he signed and granted just 2 days ago. It includes 13 counties. There are 7 more counties that need to be added to that, and as soon as we receive that information, and we're asking and seeking, as soon as we receive that information, those counties, that will include all the counties that have been hit, will be available for the assistance from FEMA. But we explained to the president that we needed that declaration. He agreed that it would be forthcoming. We explained that our farmers have been hit hard. There's no crop insurance for most of the things we produce. Cotton and soybean have crop insurance. But other things like pecans, peaches, and all your livestock, chickens, poultry, all of that sort of thing are not covered at all. So we've asked the president to consider putting that in as an appropriation this time, and the congressman and the senator have agreed that they will work on that as well.
So to President Biden, thank you for coming. Thank you for paying attention to our needs. I think we've had good working relationship between the federal government. We talked about the supplemental. We're talking hundreds of billions of dollars to make this part of the country whole. I mean, there are people who have lost everything. And we got a lot of backfilling to do, and I promised that I would work with President Biden as soon as we can, and I think we should go back in session, quite frankly. I think we need to get back in Washington and deal with this crisis in a responsible way. But we're looking at well north of $100 billion, a lot more than that when it's all said and done.
Following his meeting with the president, the governor toured a medical needs shelter in Bon Secours Wellness Arena in Greenville, one of 8 shelters open across the state.
This is a medical needs shelter. We have 8 of these across the upstate right now, and these are designed for people who have medical needs. Perhaps they have medical equipment, they have an oxygen generator, but then they have medical needs that require a constant supply of electricity. You'll also see there's some folks here in hospital beds because that's what they need. So for folks whose power is out and they can't, get the medical needs they need at home, they can come here, and we will help them with that. We will take care of them and make sure that they are well. This facility that you're in right now has a capacity of 110 people with medical needs, and 110 caregivers, so they can bring someone with them. Right now we're at about half of that because thankfully the power is starting to come back on and we're able to start getting people to go back home. But we will be here as long as they need us.
Senator Graham said the longshoremen's strike that began on October 1st, shutting down East Coast ports, including Charleston, is jeopardizing recovery efforts.
I can't emphasize this strike needs to end sooner rather than later. I cannot tell you how serious this will jeopardize our recovery in South Carolina and North Carolina. This is going to jeopardize public health. It's going to jeopardize public safety. I understand trying to get a better deal. I get all of that. But there's a federal law on the books that allows the President of the United States to stop and enjoin strikes like this that can affect the public good and the public welfare. I'm here to tell you, I know a lot about our port. It is the economic engine of the state of South Carolina. BMW, a lot of the cars they make here go through that port. They're eventually going to run out of places to put cars. Hospitals. There are a lot of medicines that have been lost because they can't be refrigerated. The supplies will dwindle over time, and this port is an essential outlet to the world for South Carolina. So President Biden, thank you for what you've done. Thank you for your team. But I am urging you, I am telling you, I am begging you, end this strike sooner rather than later because you're adding misery to pain.
I caught up with Presbyterian College President Dr. Anita Gustafson on Tuesday as she toured the campus with her family, looking at building and tree damage caused by Tropical Storm Helene last week. She shared with me some harrowing moments and how the college plans to recover.
Was unprecedented, and luckily it came early enough in the morning that students were, in their dorm rooms. It rolled through town. We lost power at 6 a.m. on Friday, and then the storm just kind of ramped up. And I was at the president's house, and we could hear, my family and I could hear some of the big trees going over, so it was very frightening. About 11 o'clock, everybody was kind of coming out and looking pretty much in shock at the damage of the campus. We lost 39 large oak trees. The day it happened, a number of the campus leaders who live near here, and we were walking around trying to find everybody, because we started with having communication at the beginning of the day as the storm came on, and then the communication just our phones did not work, our texts did not work. That was really hard because a lot of parents couldn't connect with their students. By the end of the day, we heard about some hot spots around Clinton and Lawrence, so we were going to the leadership, we were going into parking lots to find little hotspots so we could get out emails to the larger faculty and staff and to the students and their parents. We're making progress clearing, and so it'll once again look, maybe we will have fewer trees, but it'll look great. And we're having homecoming in about 3 weeks, and we're going to be ready for it.
It's been 9 years since the 1,000-year flood hit the Midlands in the city of Columbia, devastating dams that led to horrible flooding that folks still had on their minds this week. But city officials said that the water supply was safe and that there was nothing to worry about thanks to lessons learned from that flood.
We're learning more about historic floods in South Carolina. At least 7 people are dead and hundreds more have been rescued.
The region is expecting even more rain today. David Begnaud is on the ground and he joins us now from Columbia, South Carolina.
Anne Marie, good morning. Where I was standing at this place 12 hours ago, it was flooded. You had 5 feet of water and it went for about, I'd say, 50 yards across. The water has receded, but look at it now. Look inside the river. You see that vehicle, the tires over there? We're talking cars that floated downriver. Much of this was caused because 5 dams failed, one of which caused massive flooding in this area. I want to show you this building. This is the Liberty Income Tax. The water didn't go around it, it went through it. And when it did, it caused a sinkhole right in here. You've got sinkholes like this and damage all across this city. The governor has at least 400 troops, National Guardsmen, who have been activated. She's got 8,000 on standby. Now that the sun has risen, search and rescue crews are back out today looking in areas for people who may need help but haven't had a chance to call for it and ask.
Between 2015 and today, mass flooding and the threat to our main drinking water source were critical issues in 2015. That is not the case today. So we are in a much better place from that regard as far as, having built the build back, I would call it, and the use of partnerships with our federal delegation members who've worked very hard, a shout out to them, to keep this on the forefront. Congressman Clyburn and Graham, Senator Graham, and they have, and all the others have recognized the need for us to build back up our system even better, to serve our school districts, our, universities, Flagship University, and of course, the trauma centers here in Columbia. So I would say for me, that's the answer from the standpoint of the previous flood to now, is having better infrastructure and resources in place.
This situation is, again, very different than 2015, although the river level is approaching what we saw in 2015. We had flow coming overland from the city, from the heavy rains, flowing directly into the canal. We didn't have the control over the head gates that we have. In every tropical storm media briefing that you've seen me at over the last 9 years, you've heard me talk about this interim but very robust solution of a rock dam that is in place in our canal itself. All those tools are still in place, and again, they're operating as intended, and things are working like they're supposed to. If anything were different, we would be letting you know. I assure you we will be transparent, and we'll let you know the moment we know that something is different. Right now, everything is operating as intended, and we don't anticipate anything different. We have obviously lost power at some of our water pumping stations out in the distribution system, and we're working with Dominion Energy and our partners at the co-op that supply power to those to get those back on line power. We had generators in place, or either pulled generators to those sites, so that our customers never knew the difference in terms of pressure and supply. This river level event will probably be the 7th or 8th highest in history. For context, 2015 was the 6th highest, I believe, in recorded history, and so those bridges are designed to withstand these types of flooding events. So,
and even since we're in here, we're continuing to get communications via social media or otherwise. One in particular that I continue to get, I just got a text from a friend who works at Congaree Wastewater Plant, which is not what it's called actually, And they just evacuated staff, and expectations that the plant and the one on the Broad River 2 will be flooded today. So fill up your bathtubs. We may lose water, wastewater access for a while. Distruth, falsity. We have said it here today. I'm just reiterating it because it keeps coming. There are no evacuations. Our workers, wastewater treatment staff, who are doing a yeoman's job, are doing that job at the plant as they're rising river levels around them. So everything ACM Simons just explained is where we are, and we are in good shape. They're doing a great job. No one's being evacuated.
You can continue to follow the latest about Tropical Storm Helene recovery efforts in South Carolina by listening to South Carolina Public Radio. Also, check out the South Carolina Lead. It's a podcast that I host on Tuesdays and Saturdays that you can find on southcarolinapublicradio.org or wherever you find podcasts. For South Carolina ETV, I'm Gavin Jackson in Clinton. Be well, South Carolina.